chocolate isn't the answer, could you repeat the question? Hello, I'm Pat Coakley, and welcome to PODSNACKS Art of the Diet, the weekly podcast that each week tries to ask the right question about how to maintain a significant weight loss. You can access all the episodes on www.artoftthediet.com. Hey, it's Pat Coakley, and it's episode 144 of PODSNACKS, ARTOFTHEDIET.com. So I recorded about a 20-minute episode out on my morning walk this morning. No wind, so I thought it would be fine. So when I get back, I realize, yeah, it was fine, all right. It wasn't recording. So you once again get the best sound possible because I'm using a professional microphone and recording system. So don't get used to it though, because I'm heading into the weather where I am out walking 3 times a day. And so I actually like podcasting while walking. So that's why sometimes the audio on this is a less than professional. But anyway, I've got 2 points this week, one of which I think really relates to weight management, and the other is just fun. And the fun one is the royal wedding that's coming up this Saturday. And I'm not really one of those dyed-in-the-wool royal wedding watchers, but I can see that there are many out there who are. I saw one Facebook friend who's having a party. It starts at 4 a.m. She's made this enormous wedding cake. And I thought in the old days, I don't care what's on television. Someone invites me to a party with cake at 4 a.m., I'm going. First off, 4 a.m. is when I usually get up, so I don't even have to set the alarm clock. But the larger point for me is that this kind of group watch and focus, doesn't it come at a good time? You're sort of focusing on something that's frothy and fairy tale-like, regardless of the history of the royals in terms of relationships, the pomp, the circumstance, the endearing qualities, the diversity of choices that are going on now that would never have gone on 20, 30, 50 years ago. So it is a cause for celebration, and one where we can be a bit mindless. We can, eat cake at 4 a.m. And let's face it, there's just not many things in the news these days where I feel like eating cake at 4 a.m. Or unlike, well, let me say this, sheet caking, the Tina Fey sheet caking, how she was going to deal with the election results. Now that I can relate to, but to really use cake as a celebration at 4 a.m., I don't know, there's just not too many causes. So I sort of like the diversion of it. And I also think that weight maintenance we have to create royal weddings, things to take our mind off the seriousness of the struggle we're in. Because make no mistake, this is not a journey that people stay on just to look good. They simply don't, because that wears off. And you're in the weeds and you're saying, why am I doing this? Why am I not having this? Why am I restricting this? And for me, it comes down to health and independence, but it took me a long time to see that. And it took me really seeing some mobility issues that I thought, no control over except going forward. So, but honestly, to do it, this is my 9th year, to do it day after day, week after week, month after month, it requires being able to just add things into your life, not just subtract them. And I try to do that with my food choices, try to make the food choices be attractive. But there are some weeks when I look at my plate, I go, now, that really doesn't look that pretty, Pat. And so I know I'm not 100% on that. But at the same time, I seem to have figured something out that other folks meaning me for many years, just simply didn't figure out. So I think one of the things is that, honestly, I think I sort of create the equivalent of royal weddings on a regular basis, something that takes my mind off of things, of reality, that I can immerse myself in. And for me, that's a creative outlet. For some of you, it might be a cause you believe in or a commitment you've made to your community or whatever. But I think if you parallel whatever your weight journey is with something that is meaningful to you, that has nothing to do with the whole dynamic of weight, you're better off. So anyway, in honor, if I were going to a royal wedding party, here's what I would bring. My set, newly made, mind you, of the Royal Wedding Lima Bean coasters. As many of you know, I'm doing a portfolio about legumes, which before I lost weight and maintained weight, I just did not eat legumes. I avoided them. And now I love them. And after getting, used to the Instant Pot, I no longer release the steam valve with the butt end of my broom handle. I can do it with just a regular utensil. I realized, wow, how much I like them, how different preparations of them and recipes make them interesting. And so now I'm photographing them. And I photographed some small and large lima beans, and they are sort of beautiful. And as I was putting them together, I said, you know what? It's sort of like a marriage. It sort of looks a little rocky, a little pebbly, not necessarily a smooth journey, but the beauty aspect of it is there if you see it. And given what I've read about royal weddings and the aftermath of being a royal, I think there's going to be a rocky road ahead. This isn't an easy institution to exist in. So anyway, I made for my Etsy store a set of royal wedding lima bean coasters, and I'll put them in my regular store too. But anyway, I'll include them in the ARTOFTHEDIET.com/144 notes page. And a while back, I did some advertising for a women's boutique, and they sold fascinators, and I photographed the fascinators. And those are those little mini hats that are sort of like on a headband, and they're very frothy, and they have tulle and little birds, and some abstract art looking things on them, and they're fun. And I thought, if I were a hat maker, I would make a royal wedding fascinator, and I would have worn that to a party. But I'm not a hat maker, but I do make fine art coasters. So the lima bean won. All right. Now, the second experience I had this week, which started out to be not at all about weight maintenance, was I was submitting 2 of my photographs to a juried exhibit, which I've been in before. And usually I submit 2 pieces, and one time they accepted both of them, another time just one. And this time I submitted 2, and I said to myself, you know what? I don't have any questions about these. I really know they're good. And so I felt pretty confident that they would accept them. So anyway, the day came on Monday to be told whether your submissions were accepted, and I didn't hear anything. And I went, wow, they didn't accept them. And I thought, boy, it's their loss. I really did. I said, you know what? I can't do better than those 2 pieces for a variety of reasons. One was a self-portrait, by the way. Maybe I'll post both of these in the show notes page too. And I thought, what a difference being 73 versus being 33, because I really said to myself, obviously they had different priorities this year. The jurors wanted something in their choices that they didn't see in my work. But I didn't say it was because the work was bad or inferior, or that I should have changed it up, or I didn't, Monday morning literally quarterback it. And I had thought, you know what, this is very similar to how I feel about weight management, in the sense that I don't need outside affirmation. I just need to know that I can do it. And even though there are many white knuckle days, or a week, for example, where I might veer off and into the weeds and go, oh, how the heck did you get here? I know how to get out of the weeds, and I'm confident in a way that I never was before, that there's not going to be something that's going to undermine me for long. And that's a real difference between other periods of a diet, or the lifestyle changes, or whatever, that never seem to hold up. This time they hold up. And I think the confidence of doing it year after year lends itself to a self-awareness. And also, I think with creativity, the more you do it, the more you are practicing, and your sense of yourself in your creative work, you know when something is your best. Whether someone else thinks it's your best, you really don't have control over that. But you do have control over the amount of practice you put in, and the thinking about the work that you put in. And this is where creativity and a weight problem are very similar, except the weight issues deduct more from my spirit than they add. It is simply an uphill slog. And there are some days when it's parallel and horizontal walking, but most days are a slog for me. Whereas with creativity, you enter into a zone where it's sort of timeless, and you may be failing at it, but it's not personalized. There's no humiliation to it. You are simply in a zone. And I am grateful to have that outlet and to have developed that outlet. And I think for some people this week, the royal wedding is their zone. They're just leaving reality behind and going for the fairy tale. And so I'm totally on board with that. And P.S., the day after the deadline had passed, I got the notice that they'd accepted both my pieces. So aren't I glad I didn't really go down any beat myself up road? Hey, sometimes they do like it. So anyway, that's my story this week. And I'm also going to be changing it up starting in June. I've got to figure out how to access 3 years of these podcasts in a written form, because I don't know about you, but listening is fine. I really enjoy podcasts when I'm walking. But when I'm dealing with the daily slog of weight maintenance, I want to be able to read something or have something in my hand. And I've often gone back to some of the podcasts that I did of transcripts that have transcripts of interviews, because it just helps me to plop down into an ordinary day 3 years ago when I was fighting the same battle. What was I thinking? What was I doing? Did I do anything that I should be doing now? So I've got to figure this out. It's going to take time. And I just haven't figured out what I'll do for the weekly podcast while I'm doing this. But hopefully there'll be some treats involved in terms of what I'll have for you. And for my loyal listeners, I'll offer it free to you. But I've got to figure that out. So that June 1st is sort of the deadline I've got, and that's a Friday. So maybe that Wednesday before June 1st. When is that? Is that next a week from Wednesday? Good grief. I got to get going. Anyway, so I also think that interviewing folks may be a way to go in the coming months, because my story really, I'm sort of tired of me. I really am. I have these observations, and some of them are helpful and some of them are funny and some of them are just stupid. But I think it might be time to do some more interviews. So if you have any desire to be interviewed by me, I do it via Skype. I know how to do that. And if you don't, I'll be able to tell you. Drop me an email at artofthediet@gmail.com. And I'd love to interview some of my listeners and share your story and have your story be helpful to others. Because 3 years of me and my story, okay, there's been some good ones. There's been some not so good ones. And I'm going to try to get the good ones all together so they're accessible. But I think in order for me to continue doing this on a regular basis, I'm going to have to share some other stories as well. So if you'd like to be, if you're interested in having a phone interview with me for about 20 minutes, drop me a line. I'd love to chat with you about it. So that's artofthediet@gmail.com. Okay. Happy royal wedding. Cake at 4 a.m.